Hey, it's Rob Vanovermeire with your Q3 2019 real estate market report. I've got all the data is in from the Calgary Real Estate Board. But before we get to that, a lot of people have been asking me now that the election is over and maybe for Alberta, the election didn't go the way that we all wanted it to go, and how is that going to affect real estate? The truth is, I don't really know for sure, but even though the energy sector is definitely a concern, how much of that will spill into real estate? And the answer is it's hard to say for certain. It could have an effect. I will not rule that out, but I don't believe the bottom of the bucket will fall out either. And the stats will hopefully show you that. And if you have some fears, we'll put that to rest. A little bit on the economic update. They pull these stats from a number of different places, but what I look at obviously is the Alberta GDP growth. It's moderate. We've actually still had some net migration coming into the province, and our interest rates are still low, and that is actually good news in terms of real estate. Employment is still relatively high for all of Canada. We're sitting, at around 7%. We've dropped to 6.90, where the rest of Canada is sitting at about 5.5. So we still have some unemployment is fairly high in Alberta, and that's going to play into real estate as well. But we've quite frankly been hovering at around 7% for quite some time now, and our market has still stayed reasonably well despite that. We always look at the new home and rental markets because we do have to factor in how many housing starts are coming in. And you can see from over here that single family housing starts are actually down, and that's year to date, and down from the forecast anyway from that they predicted for 2019. Multi-housing starts we're at 5484, and that is down from the prediction of 6297. And so the total, we're at about 8,000, which is down from 9,500, approximately what they were predicting. Properties that are under construction, and you can see by this chart here, as to where the inventory actually is for multifamily and single family. So we still have a fair amount of product coming onto the marketplace, and definitely when it comes to condominium, that is a concern because we just have already a little bit more inventory in the resale market when it comes to condos. So bringing more new ones on is definitely a concern. This is just a little bit of an idea on prices here. Our Q3 benchmark price for Calgary is $425,533. So that's down an average, of about 2.74%. And that's why I said to you, that's not like the bottom of the bucket is falling out. We're seeing some moderate, price easing, but it's not like it's a dramatic amount of money that properties are going down. What is good news is if you look at the sales, and we're sitting right now at year to date 12,934, and that's actually up a little bit from last year. So we've gone to the positive direction in terms of volume of sales. And as far as new listings goes, 25,648, and that is down 12.9% or 12.19% from year over year, and that is very good. Anytime that inventory can drop down, that certainly means that our prices are going to hold. And you can see that year to date we're at 6,810, and that's down 6.32%. And I will tell you, just from my own personal experience and being in the business, there's a lot of people that I've dealt with that basically said, hey, if I can't get a reasonable price for my property, I will keep it. And I think that that's an attitude that a lot of homeowners are sharing, and that's a big reason why the prices are holding, is that there are many people out there that are saying, sure, I would consider selling, but not at a dramatic discount, or I'll keep the property. Now, let's just take a look here at the areas within the city. And this is a really good chart to pay attention to, because if you look over here at the color chart, you can see that what areas of the city are doing better than the others, because real estate is very local. As much as we like to look at the benchmark price, it does not speak for the entire market. Every community in this city is a little bit different, and every particular property is different. So that's why it's just not black and white. But if you're trying to look at a trend to see which area of the city would maybe be the best area to invest in, or you might look at it as what area of the city has the best opportunities because prices have come down. And there really is two schools of thought when it comes to that. And you can see that the South right now, this area right here has averaged about a 5% decrease in pricing. And the city center has averaged, that 3 to 5% decrease in pricing. And the east right here is 3 to 5% decrease in pricing. So you can see the areas that are in pink, they've held up the best. They're either at around a 0% decrease or a maximum of minus 2%. So these are the areas that have held up the best. And if you are a seller in one of these areas, that might be good news for you, because maybe your home is worth a decent amount of money. I actually just went on a listing appointment the other day in Auburn Bay, and they bought their property 3 years ago, and we did an evaluation, and actually their home price has gone up slightly. For them, that's good news, because they can probably get their money back out of it that they put into it from 3 years ago. And you can see that our year-to-date sales, 7,865, which is down slightly year over year. Remember, this is just detached properties. New listing inventory, you can see at 14,541. That's down 13%. That's significant, and that's why it's it's good news to see that. And our inventory year to date, 3,556. And that is down 6% from year over year. I think the bottom line is, if this trend does continue into 2020, like I said earlier, the bottom of the bucket won't be falling out. This is for apartment condos, and you can see again in this case the West has taken the biggest hit on apartment condos, and the city center is second place, whereas the areas of surrounding the North and the South have held up. And then interestingly enough, the Northeast, the East, and the Southeast have actually seen some modest increase in pricing when it comes to apartment condos. And I think, quite frankly, it's the affordability. When you look at the areas here, it's just for first-time buyers especially, or investors, they can get into the market at a much lower price point, and that's attractive to them. And you can see with the year-to-date sales at 2107, that's up from last year. And back over here, the year-to-date inventory has dropped 8%. So that is positive for apartment condos. But like I said, also, there is a lot of inventory still coming on the market. So there's going to be a little bit of uncertainty when it comes to that market into 2020. Semi-detached, you can see here in the South, they've also taken the biggest hit. City center, I'm not surprised. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of infills that have been built, and that market has been very competitive. And so some of those prices have actually dropped. But again, look at the areas that have held up okay. I mean, I think right now in this market, to be at 0 to 2% of a decrease, it really isn't too bad, all things to consider. 1331 is the year-to-date sales for this market. That's up 6%. And then we're year-to-date 729, down 0.4%. So again, that's a decrease in inventory, which is a good thing. Rowhouses. So these are generally properties that are condominiums, otherwise known as townhouses. And you can see the city center has definitely taken a bigger hit, and to the east on those row houses. I know there's been a lot of developers that have built these row houses, and I think there's been higher levels of inventory just because of that in the city center. And the Northwest and the North, if you just take a look at where a lot of the building has been, that's why. I mean, they've put maybe more inventory into that than we've needed, and that market has been a little bit more challenging. And the other thing that the townhouses have struggled with is when the market was really strong in 2014, a lot of buyers were turning to those as opposed to detached houses. I really believe that many of those buyers have now turned to semi-detached, which is relatively the same price, and they don't have to pay the condo fees. For some reason, there's a bit of a stigma with these townhouses about paying condo fees. A lot of people don't like to pay them, even though there is value in condo fees. Year-to-date sales is up 4.69%, and the inventory levels have also dropped 5.28%. So this gives you a strong indication of where things are. And again, if you are a buyer or you're a seller, you want to get a little more detailed information on specific communities, reach out to me, because as I said before, real estate is very, very local, and every community is a little bit different. But what I do with people is really show them where the market is. If you're selling, there's certain things that you can do to bring value that is very, very inexpensive. We've proven this and tested it over the course of the last couple of years in this down market, and has worked really well. And we've been able to get prices in some cases that the seller was unexpected. And then with buyers, the bottom line is there's opportunities, and this could be a very good market to be buying in if you're very careful about it and you're very smart. Hope that's helpful at this point in time. We'll talk to you next month.